G'day from the Sofitel Hotel in Bahrain, where this morning I'm going to sit and watch along Drive to Survive with you. I'm going to stop it at various points and tell you what I experience when I see something that I was perhaps close to. So I hope you'll join me. It's free of charge. Drive to Survive, Series 4. This is a watch along. First up, you can't help but note that the production quality is magnificent, and there are only 10 episodes. They have a different director for editing of each episode, and those directors get together over the course of the months that it takes them to put this together, just to make sure that they're not covering topics that someone else has covered. 3 minutes 20, Christian Horner. Such is his honesty, I love it. Well, at 4 minutes-ish, you can see a back shot of me there, because our brief for the first races of the year, and probably the first 2/3 of the season, was we could not go in the paddock. We had to stay out at the car park so we could photograph these guys walking in, but once they got into the paddock, they were gone from our view. Interesting, when Nikita Mazepin introduces himself, he does it in English and he says Mazepin, but when he does it in Russian, he says Mazepin. At 7:23, they do the Drive to Survive shoot out on the track. I was actually positioned on the outside of the track here, and I very nearly missed it because I couldn't work out how to get track side. In the end, I did, and I got a whole host of pictures. And for some of the drivers, they were the only shots I got of them without their masks on for probably a good month and a half. At 7:23, when all the drivers look at the camera that comes towards them, I do note that there are 3 wearing sunnies. Everyone else had no sunnies. They are Sebastian Vettel, Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso. Fernando, obviously, because he's a shareholder in Kamoa, which is the sunglass provider. At 10:37, you see the team principals being photographed. That's done at the track in a separate area, and we'll often see those drivers and team principals going backwards and forwards to those shoots. It's a great opportunity for us to get photos of them as they wander the paddock in a normal year, but of course we were locked out. What about Toto's order here at 22 minutes and 40? He's very definite, isn't he? I initially thought that it was a joke. That was episode 1. Lots of drama in there with music swelling at the right point. I'm going to give that one 7 out of 10 and go straight to episode 2. At 3:50, Zach Brown says that he can't think of a more exciting driver pairing than his 2 guys, and I think he's right. Those 2 have so much personality. They're unique in the sport. At 7:19 in episode 2 here, they filmed Daniel coming in his McLaren. There must be at least 5 cameras in and on that car to capture all that vision, and they're mainly small GoPros. At 7:53, that McLaren building that you see when Daniel goes into it is actually just on the outskirts of the track in Bahrain. That's where we actually, in the back of that building, had our COVID injections, our vaccines, going back to the start of 2021. At 22:22, I thought that was interesting that Daniel asked what the fine was if he didn't go and do the media commitments, because all drivers have to do it after quali and after the race. They have to go to the media pen and answer the questions. They don't have to enjoy doing it, they don't have to stay very long, but it is a requirement in the contracts. Interesting too that Mattia Binotto is the only one that doesn't speak English in these interviews. Daniel was one of a number of drivers to arrive by boat, and I think I've got shots of him on that boat. This is the red boat that he was on, and I'm standing on the land taking shots of the 3 of them arriving. And obviously that gets them there perhaps a little quicker if they don't have to navigate the traffic. The interviews done with the likes of Will Buxton and Jenny Gow are done progressively throughout the year, so there may be 4 or 5 different recording days. Episode 2, I'm going to give that 8 out of 10. I liked it. And straight on to episode 3. There's Checo arriving on a boat. Did I have him coming in? This photo here was taken shortly after that vision of him getting off the boat. They walk up this small jetty and then they head straight into the paddock via the middle entrance in the paddock in Monaco, which is probably the worst paddock that we have in F1. And here's the boat that he was on too. Okay, so that's me just down the bottom of this shot here. At 3:43, you see Lewis in the paddock wearing blue overalls, and that was one of the more interesting outfits I thought Lewis wore last year. In this case, he's got them rolled down. Just watching at 4:24, I think Netflix are really focusing on the battle between Toto and Christian, because they're not quite so guarded as a driver, and they are out there to be seen and both of them are very punchy characters. They just don't hold back. At 4:34 you see Toto and Susie roll up on a boat. You don't see the actual boat, but I did. This is what it looks like, and as you can see it has Mercedes logos on the front, little flag on the back. The day I shot this photo wasn't the day that Netflix did their video. At 5:08-ish you've got Toto and Susie rolling down the paddock on scooters. I captured them just outside the paddock on their scooters. At about 9:07 you see the Ferrari coming out of the tunnel. Now for me to get these shots that you see here, I'm situated just to the left over here. That permits me to get darkness behind the car and the car in full sun. Actually, just looking at that shot of Valtteri Bottas on the start line in this episode, I realised that he had the Monaco flag colours on one side of his tear-offs and the finish colours on the other side. At 18:11, Lewis is talking to his race engineer. I'm amazed at how much chat they have. On a busy track like that, where they're constantly going around corners, they've got time to have a conversation and still drive a car fast. It's phenomenal. That's funny. They've taken some vision at about 18:51 or something here of the guys on the boat with the orange outfits. I took photos of those same guys, and they were really good fun. I think they've probably had a top day out, and those boats are very expensive to rent. The podium at 19:30-ish here was interesting because we weren't allowed access to the grid. Normally we are, but COVID put an end to that. Instead, I was stuck back in some position across the track, and the only way I could shoot was to have the camera way over my head and use the screen, which wasn't a tilt out. But I managed to get a couple of reasonable shots, but yeah, nothing like what Netflix gets, obviously. Oh, there's another sighting of me in the background as Charles gets out of his car at about, 25 minutes. And have you noticed too that some of the episodes are in the order of, 35 minutes, and this one here is probably closer to 46. There's no stipulated time length per episode. In general, I find the quality of this vision to be astounding. It's so crisp. It's so pleasant to look at. I should point out that the teams have the right to say we don't want that in an episode, so they get to pre-watch the episodes. As I understand it, if they think something is not correct, they can say, well, that's not correct, we don't want it in there. But I happen to know that sometimes they say, look, we just don't want that in there because it doesn't look good. In which case, Netflix can either say, no, it's staying in there because that's what our written agreement says, or they do the commercially smart thing and say, right, we'll take it out for you. So we don't know what was knocked back by a team in this episode or any other episode for that matter. At 44 minutes, you can see a photographer by the name of Charles Coates pushing out a wire grill on the fence so Lewis can jump through it. A lot of people mistake Charles for me because he's quite tall and we don't look dissimilar, but that is Toots, as he's called, and he is one of the longest serving photographers in F1. That was episode number 3. I give that one 8 out of 10 too. I thought that was really spot on. And got to remember that at Silverstone, I was at turn 1, so I never got to see any of the crash, obviously. I did manage to get back to the Parc Fermé and got Lewis coming out onto the grass where he waved at the fans, and that was a great opportunity. But at this stage, we're not allowed into the paddock and we miss out on quite a bit. Thanks for sticking with me. If you've enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't done so, and remember that being a member gets you a whole lot of extra privileges. And this year, I'm doing a handful of meet and greets around the world. And the first one comes up in Melbourne on the Wednesday prior to the race. And if you're a YouTube member of mine, you will get an invitation to that. Just half an hour chat and talk about F1. And I'll sign any pictures of mine if you have them. You can certainly go online now and order those at kimellman.com, or you can get onto prostarpics.com and get my digital images there. And for my best pictures live from the track and all during the week, I'm going to invite you to head to Instagram and search at Kim Ellman. Thanks for watching and stay passionate. Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for